Today, we're pleased to have Dolores Rowe from Kennett Square, Pennsylvania. She's our speaker, and thank her for always being the good girl she is to jump in and help us with a program. And Christmas is one of her soft spots. It's something that she's collected for a number of years. And you remember from last year, she did a Christmas program. Well, really, it was in July. She called it Christmas in July, I think. And that was about Christmas trees. And that was most interesting. Today, she's looking at Santas. And I'm going to let her tell about that. I won't go in and steal some of her thunder. But thank you, Dolores, for being here. And let's jump right in and see what you have to show us. Thank you.
Well, that's wonderful. And I thank everybody for coming, because I kind of thought when we picked Santa Claus as the topic that people would think, oh, boring, red suit, reindeer, sleigh, who cares? But there are many topics in this category that make it more than that. And so I'd like to give you some examples. Now, mind you, I'm not promising that there's not going to be red suited Santas, but if so, there should have a different slant that would be interesting to you. And this first one, of course, is a red suited Santa, but he's relatively unusual with the deer or elk or whatever you want to call that he's pulling his sled. And it was mailed from Denmark. It was used, but I can't make out the date. And we're going to talk about that later on. But before we go on, I want to tell you the topics I'm going to use. I'm going to talk about advertising, transportation, color, novelties, and then a few extra ones at the end. So we're going to start with advertising. Just like today, they use Santa to advertise everything. And this is my first card advertises this store in Berlin. And you can see that it is jam-packed with gifts for you to buy. Of course, I bought it because of the Santa on the left-hand side, but a lot of people buy Santa and Christmas cards because of the toys. Maybe they like elephants or clowns or whatever. So that's what, besides the advertising, that's another reason that card might be bought. Also, of course, it shows scenes from Berlin. This card is from 1907, and it is signed down in the left-hand corner. I have not looked up that artist as of yet, I'm sorry to say, but that's a wonderful advertising card. The second advertising card shows Santa, a more up-to-date Santa, and he's driving a car, and it's overflowing with boxes of Falder's high-class chocolates. Not only does it have the chocolates, there's a few toys. There's poppers and a bear and a doll, but if you notice between the bear and the doll, there's a black figurine. That's called a gollywog. He was created by a cartoonist named Florence Kate Upton, and he appeared in children's books in the late 19th century, usually depicted as a rag doll, which I have one of them, but of course mine is not a vintage, it's a newer one. It was a popular toy in Great Britain and Australia, and many people see it as racist today, so they might not want this card, but other people collect it because of the gollywog, as well as the automobile and the advertising. This card is unused and it has a divided back. My favorite advertising card is next. This is a Falstaff beer advertisement produced by the Lemp Company. You can see their slogan at the bottom, the choicest product of the brewer's art. Look at the wonderful artwork on that beer bottle. And look at Santa thinking he can get a case of beer down the chimney. I have no idea how he thinks he can do that. But anyway, what's really cool about this card, besides the artwork, is it's a perpetual calendar. So you see, it says 1911 to 1931. So you could spin it to the year and your calendar dates would be correct. So this would have been saved by somebody. I'm not sure, you don't see it real often, but you certainly think they would have saved it for the 20 years that it was a perpetual calendar. It is unused. It has a divided back. Now, of course, linen era cards also had advertising. This one advertises Wormser gifts for men. On the back, tips from Santa. It includes prices for hats, $3.35 or $3.95. Or if you want a custom-made felt hat, $5. Damaris can tell us about custom-made hats because she got a cool one in Wichita. It didn't cost $5, I'm sure. Gloves, $1.15 to $2.95. And ties, 55 cents or 2 for $1. What a bargain. Now, the really neat thing about this is in the corner, you will see it advertises a free miniature hat in a tiny hat box with the purchase of a gift certificate. Now, I have 2 of these hat boxes, one with a man's hat and one with a woman's hat with a feather. But I bought them years before at auctions, not knowing that, I assumed they were from a hat shop, but not knowing this information that for $3.25, you could get this little miniature hat in the box, and that was considered a gift certificate to the person you gave it to. I think it's lovely. The card was produced in New York, so I assume Wormser might be in New York, but I'm not sure. The second linen card. This advertises Clinton's stores, the makers and retailers of fine clothes. And Santa and Jim Clinton say, no fancy fixtures, fellers, no high pressure selling. Note the prices, $9.95 for gabardine slacks, $36.95 for a wool suit. At the bottom, it's printed free, a useful Xmas novelty if you bring this card with you. Now, I have no idea what the novelty would be, and maybe that might have made this card harder to find because people turned it in, but I don't know that for sure. The back has a map of all 4 of the factory showrooms of Clinton, and they were all located in Massachusetts. So you could advertise, you could do advertising for Santa. The next topic is transportation. Yes, you usually think of him traveling by reindeer in a sleigh, but you can find all other kinds of transportation. I love this card. It has a hot air balloon, was mailed in 1908 from England. And you can see what looks like a comet up here. We were kind of thinking it might be Halley's Comet, but since it's 1908, probably not. But still a great image of Santa in his hot air balloon. The second one shows a hot air balloon, I assume, but maybe not, since it's shaped like a Zeppelin and it has propellers. So I guess it really didn't run on hot air. But it's an unusual one because of the shape. You can see he's looking down on the earth, and this card was from Belgium. A more modern Santa is in the next card. This is a French card. He's riding an airplane, not a biplane, but a newer one. And you can see he has his staff and his toys and his lantern. And the next one is a linen airplane, Kurtite Company. Gifts spewing all over the place from behind him. So he didn't have that pack put together too well. The neat thing about this one is it was sent from a granddaughter to her grandmother, telling her that she got a war bond today. And it was mailed in 1944. Now, Santa can come in an automobile as well. We saw that with the chocolate advertisement. And this one is just a regular automobile from the time period. Lots of fruit, as you would find in early Christmas gifts. Looks like there's dogs in the back and bears and so forth. This card was mailed from, was not mailed, but it's from Slovenia. So I thought that was interesting. I love the trees in the background. But the best card of cars is yet to come. This is, I call this a limousine. This is a typical St. Nicholas from Europe, with St. Nicholas with his mitre on, like a bishop or, you know, a religious person would be carrying. He has the staff, which is called a crozier, which would be like that of a shepherd. His initial N for St. Nicholas is on the back and on the side. Tons of toys, including that airplane that looks like it's flying, but it's really attached to the group of toys he has. But one real interesting thing about this card is the driver. The driver is Black Peter, P-E-T-E-R. He was, according to folklore in the Low Countries, a companion of St. Nicholas. The earliest known illustration of him was in 1850 in a book by an Amsterdam school teacher named Jan Schenkman, in which he was predicted as a black Moor from Spain. Some saw him as a slave, although I don't know why he would be dressed that well if he was a slave, but still, that's everybody's perception is different. And this is definitely out of favor now, although some people do collect Black Peter. This card shows a cool Santa because he's on a motorcycle and he has his sidecar full of toys. And he's in a blue suit, you will notice. But the other really interesting thing about this Santa is what's on his back. That's called a Krampus. The Krampus was a horned anthropomorphic figure, mostly in Central and Eastern Alpine folklore. And he looks scary because he was supposed to be scary. If children were bad, you would see that Krampus with his birch rods, and you might be beaten by this Krampus. And there are cards that just show the Krampus, not Santa, and people look for those as well. This particular card was manufactured in Belgium. The next one is a tricycle, although you can find bicycles with Santas too. I thought this was a little more unusual. It's from Sweden. The Santa, to me, looks like a mailman. He's got his little hat on that says Express. And this card was mailed in 1903. So it's one of the earlier cards that I have. Although, you know, some of them look earlier, this is the earliest that I can prove the age to. Now, Santa can also travel by foot or some such contraption that would be attached to his feet. So this is a Kertijk linen. He's on skis going down the mountainside with his pack. But snowshoes were also used. So the next card shows snowshoes. Now, notice that Santa looks more like a gnome than most of the ones that we think of. And there were many Santa cards that do look like gnomes. This is an unused card. It is from Germany. And you may ask, well, how does he get all his toys delivered when he's on skis and on snowshoes? Well, you know, you just have to believe it's Christmas time. The most unusual transport is on the next card, the most unusual one that I have. This is Santa with two turkeys that escaped Thanksgiving. I don't know how they're pulling that sleigh, but I think that's really a great image. It was published by Valentine Company of England. And I think that's a real unusual one. Now, this next card is modern. Well, modern by what I mean is that 1954. It shows Santa riding on a snow white pony. And that's the lyrics of a song by that name. It was written by Randy Atcher in 1954. And he was on the radio station WHAS in Louisville. I assume that's Kentucky, but it did not say. The card itself is an adaptation from the art of one of a group of Lincoln Hills artists, Violet Bruner Wendell, and that information is on the back. It was printed by Dexter Press of New York, but notice this card was intended for Western audiences, as you can see, cacti, and the song tells about having no snow. So remember that card, because later on, you're going to hear something more about it. I think he's dapper, don't you? We're going into colors next. Well, obviously, we think of Santa. The image is from Clement Moore's 1823 poem, A Visit from St. Nicholas, or 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. He started the image of the jolly old elf, red suit, great big belly, red cheeks, smiling and happy. But that was our first vision of him. And then in 1863, Thomas Nast, who did political illustrations, also put that type of an elf like Santa with the big belly and so forth in Harper's Weekly, 1863. But in most countries, that is not how he looked. He could appear in any color, and he was not a big fat Santa. So this time, this card shows a green Santa from Sweden with his tree, with his switches, and thin. So if you don't like red Santas, you can find green Santas. The next one is another green Santa, but a darker shade. It's French. The card was mailed, but I can't read the date. And I'm hoping that one of you can help me later on, because there are European cancels on a later card, and maybe you can help me figure out, what the date it was mailed was. I'll show you that later. One of my favorite colors, if you can't figure out, purple. This is a lovely card with a purple coat. It was used in the US, but made in Germany. And there's several cards of this set that have the same image, but with different colors. You can find green, you can find red, and other colors. Also, you can find the same image of Santa's head, just the head on the card, but it's the same type of thing, and it also comes in different colors. The next one is one of the first unusual colored Santa suits that I ever found. He's what they call a full-length Santa, which is what some people would prefer to other ones. And again, purple suit, pink garment under the robe, golden lining, very unusual, and with his staff and walking. Yellow is another color you can find on Santas. Oh, this is very pale, but this is an absolutely exquisite card because, again, the lithography, it's just beautiful. The little girl looks like she could wake up and talk to you. Santa could be his ho, ho, ho self. It's just beautiful, but it is an unusual color. The next one is also yellow, but totally different. This one is from Norway. He's a little chubbier. He still has toys, but there's lots of fruit. Maybe that's a cookie, that kind of thing. And also he's a yellow suited Santa. You can find brown. I love this card because I think the border of the bells and the stars makes the interior of the card stand out. He's obviously got a brown suit on. He has the type of anklets that are finished and the belt, and giving the little girl the gift right there in the house. The next one is also, I can't tell you, I have so many favorites, huh? This is an exquisite image. It's such a close-up. The Santa in brown, all the gifts on the back, his face, the child's face. It was done by an artist, Rick Mouth. Now, I have found him in the book, A Guide to Signatures and Monograms on Postcards. And I found that he worked for the Stengel Company in Dresden and Berlin. But I can't find out any more information about him, so possibly one of our viewers will know something more about him. This card does have an undivided back. Whoever would have thought there'd be a black suited Santa? But this is a very popular set. It was made by the Rotograph Company of New York. And there are several in this set, and they're real popular. I think I only have 2 of them. But you notice that these little imps behind him are going to get those switches because they're stealing fruit and candy and stuff out of his pack. And besides the black Santa, there is the Santa in white. I don't know why I find this charming, but it's white, there's snow. You would think it wouldn't be interesting, but I just think it's beautiful. It was mailed from Belgium in 1937. Now we're going from colors to novelties. First novelty card is a Santa with blue silk attached to his suit. Now the card was printed just like normal, and then the silk was added. So if for some reason the silk came off, which would be a mess, there would be, I don't know if it would be blue, but there would be a suit underneath there. But these were real popular for a long time, not as much right now, but that's a blue suited Santa with silk. The next one is maroon. Again, added to the card after it was manufactured. I'm not sure if an individual person did it or if somebody in the factory did it. Someone might have to tell me that. But they're very pretty. And you can also find these instead of silk with felt attached. The next 2 cards, we were debating, what do we call this stuff on him? It's supposed to be his hair, but it isn't real hair. And it's not fur. So whatever you want to call it, it's attached to look like his beard. And this one also has an actual felt hat with a braided band to help it look even nicer. This is a hard to find card. I have 3 from this set so far. I imagine that there are more, but that's what I have so far. Now, these cards would not have made it through the mail like that. So they either had to be put in an envelope, or sometimes they were sent in a glassine envelope, if you know that. It's a thin, opaque type of material, and stamp dealers use them a lot. And we actually have seen them sent through the mail. I mean, they were postmarked right on the glassine envelope. So the next card is another one with artificial hair. I just think his beard and his eyebrows and his hair, and he's purple. What else could be better? If you lifted his beard, you would still see all the printing underneath. There are several cards in this set, including some without the attached beard. And it's just a very attractive set. The face is very kindly and nice. I call this a Google eye. I don't know what the official term is. It's Dutch. And you notice they're very easily damaged. So you notice his one eye on the left doesn't look quite right because it's been dented. So you just have to be careful with it. There is an artist's signature in the lower right-hand side, but I can't find anything about that signature. But I think he's kind of funny looking. This is what I call a modern card, or chrome. This was published by Charles Products of Washington, D.C., and it can be played on your phonograph at 78 RPM if you can find one. Now, I actually do still have a phonograph, being a dinosaur, but I've been afraid to play it because I don't want to damage it. I have no idea what the song is that it plays. The back says that the reindeer portrayed on the card is Donder. I don't know anything about that, but that's what it says. I find that's pretty interesting. This is what is called an installment card. And I know that someone has previously talked about these, so I don't want to bore anybody to death. But what happens with these cards is you would send one, then the second one the next day, then the third one, then the fourth one on consecutive days. So the person would get the final one on the fourth day and see what it was in case they couldn't figure it out. I was lucky enough to find it in this envelope, which you can see is not in good shape. It's been silverfished and torn and so forth, but it probably kept the card in pretty good shape. So I want to read you what it says because I think it's hilarious. And then we're going to show you each of these separately. So in case you're lucky enough someday to find pieces of this in somebody's quarter box, you can save it and hope someday to find the rest, which I have done that. Sometimes I've found the rest, sometimes I haven't. But anyway, the first card says, I come to you with flying feet to bring you many greetings sweet. The second card, wait a while, soon you shall see what I'm hiding here for thee. The third card, so heavy the gifts in my sack, but Christmas, Xmas soon will relieve my back. Fourth card, I hope you'll greet me with applause. Behold, your old friend, Santa Claus. So now we'll just, these are undivided backs, by the way. So before 1907. Now we'll show you the individual cards. Okay, another type of novelty card is the Hold to the Light. And all Hold to the Lights are popular, but Santa's probably more so than anything. And what a Hold to the Light is, it's made of 3 layers. It has the back postcard, the backing that looks like a postcard. It has a colored layer inside. And then it has the image on top. And on the image, there are cut out pieces. And you can probably see them in this card because it's so nice and close up. And when the card is held up to the sun or to strong light, that light shines through those things and makes them look lit. So on this card, you can see the stars, the moon, the ornaments on the tree, gifts in Santa's pack, the lantern, the houses, and the holly and the berries. They're all lit. And I just think this is an exquisite card because it's a night scene and it just makes everything pop. My next Hold to the Light card is probably one of the most sought afters. It's an Uncle Sam Santa, very hard to find. There's several in this set. Unfortunately, I only have this one, but you'll notice it's cut out, a Jolly Christmas, an orange in Santa's pack, behind the children, the moon, and the houses, the windows. This card also appears as not a Hold to the Light, just an image of Uncle Sam, and even that is hard to find. It was mailed from San Francisco in 1912. Now, the next ones I'm going to show is just a few extras. They don't fit in any of those topics. So today, you could take your child to any mall and you could get a picture of Santa. Well, back in these days, you could do the same. And most of the pictures you see that are photographs have Santa standing there, a fake horse, the child on the horse, a tree behind them, and maybe a number that tells you it's yours. Well, I have some of those, but I didn't think they were as interesting as these two. So this is a real photo of Santa. Looks pretty scary to me. Has on his suit. The mule has a blanket of some type with spectacles that don't even look like they go over his eye sockets, but it's cool. And then there are things in the basket. I don't know what kinds of things. Maybe they're candy. I can't really tell. But anyway, this card is an undivided back, which I thought was unusual for a photograph. I'm not sure of where it's from. It says Carte Postale on the back, which I thought was Italian, but maybe someone else can tell me what other countries would have used that instead of postcard, would have used that on the back. The second photograph I have, I just think is charming. The Santa is a little bit friendlier. It was mailed, it was used in 1937, as you can see from the cart. And a lot of people collect goat carts. So besides the fact that this is Santa and a photograph, they might collect it because of the goat. But I also find the expressions on the children's face just charming. And this is also an undivided back card, even though it is from 37. So that kind of breaks our rule of before 1907. But anyway, it's a photograph. Santa did not forget the soldiers. So this is a German blue-suited Santa, World War I. There's a bag of gifts there. He's writing something on someone's back, on a piece of paper, maybe a letter home, I don't know, but he's got lots of letters he's given out and toys to the soldiers. I have 5 of these. I imagine that there are at least 6. I think they're really interesting. One has Santa giving out gifts from a train. One, he almost looks like he's in a bunker. But the back of this card is really interesting too. So let's see the back. It has cookies along the bottom, the garland, candles, pretzels, apples, etc. Now here's an example of the postmark that you can help me with. It says, we'll go back, it says 19, 12, 17, 8-9V. That is not familiar to me, but I'm sure one of you will know when that was mailed. So if you help me figure that out, I would be much appreciative. Okay, the next card is another World War I card. It might appeal to collectors, not just Santa collectors, but to Red Cross collectors and military collectors, because you can see the French flag, the Red Cross flag, and the American flag. And the title says, or the verse says, "A Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year from the American people through the American Red Cross." This is also signed, it looks like Stephanie. I could not find this artist. It was published in Paris. Well, even though Santa is an old white man, like most of the Supreme Court, he was trying to deliver votes for women in 1914. Too bad it took him another 6 years. Now, before we show you the next card, I want to tell you something about it. It's from Finland. It makes me smile every time I look at it. After a long night of dealing with deer and sliding down ash-covered chimneys, Here is an image of Santa being tended to by the missus. He is so dirty. She has to use a brush, folks. So that's the end of my talk, except for a little surprise here at the end.
Way out west where I come from, it seldom ever snows. So Santa can't use reindeer as down the trail he goes. But Santa comes on Christmas Eve to boys and girls out there. And if you listen, you can hear singing everywhere. Clippity-clop, clop, clippity-clop, clop. Santa Claus rides the snow white pony. Clippity-clop, clop, clippity-clop, clop. Way out west where the sun shines only. Clippity.
It kind of goes with the presentation for
Yep.
sure. I doubt if very many of us had heard about Santa rides a snow white pony
Yep.
before. So that was worth the trip for sure. Thank you, Dolores, so very much
Quite
for that fun and seasonal presentation. And we saw some great Santa Claus cards for sure. I hear people clapping or I see their hands going. So
That's cool.
in
Thanks.
any case, Ray Han, we're ready for you to unmute yourself and to help us with the questions, please.
It'd be my honor, Hal.
Great, thank you.
The most interesting part of the day for me is I mentioned earlier that it was raining here in New Jersey, and as soon as Dolores started her talk, the sun came out.
Hey, hallelujah.
So thank you, Dolores.
You're welcome.
Well, there seems to be that many people seem to know, Dolores, that the cancel date
Oh,
on
good.
that particular card was the 19th day of the 12th month in the year 1917.
All right, I'm going to write this down.
So December 19th, 1917.
Okay, so the 19th is the day and the 12th is the month
And
and the
1917.
17 is the year.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you, everybody that told Ray that or told me that.
All right. I too would like to join in the crowd that knew about the universal postcard application at the top, carte postale.
Oh, yes.
I would add to that the Universal Postal Union also used that terminology.
Okay.
So that's just a sideline.
So it could have been from any different country in that.
It could, yeah. The French and English were the universal languages of the
Okay.
Postal Union. That goes back to President Arthur's time, as
Okay.
as I recall. Hal would like to chime in and tell us that Franz Huld, H-U-L-D, I think,
Yes.
was the publisher of that installation Santa set.
Yes.
That's always interesting to know about who publishes our cards. And Mr. Eberhardt, George, wherever you are, pointed out three things that I found of interest. The Wormser card that
Yes.
you showed. He reminds us that the Wormser company was a Louisiana business,
Oh,
and it was founded in 1932.
okay.
George also reminds us that Randy Atcher was a Kentuckian,
Yes.
and some of his music is available on YouTube. So
Right.
I suspect if you just searched YouTube for Randy Atcher, you'd find whatever's there.
That's how Alan found the song.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And George also reminds us that there's a very interesting history of Santa Claus in a book by a person named Phyllis Seelker, and the title of the book is Santa, the Last of the Wild Men.
Okay. I'm taking notes.
That's about that's about everything. There were lots of thank yous and beautiful presentations and even a terrific, and let me see what else. Someone, who's MM?
Mark Moss.
Mark Moss from California.
Mark, I have a terrible time seeing these days. Would you?
It's okay.
Rate your remark?
There was one postcard by Stéphanie, the French artist.
Yes.
It may have been Henri Stéphanie. I put the date in there. He was lived 1880 to 1934.
Okay.
I'm not certain. You have to double check the signature against some of the signatures that you can find on Google. But
Okay.
the name, the dates seem to correspond. So if you want to look it up further, investigate it further, that may have been him.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I knew you folks would know things to help me.
Well, again, it's not certain, but it's
Yeah,
worth
but still.
investigating further.
Right.
All right, thank you. And if I may take a moment of personal privilege, I'd like to announce that on December the 22nd, Postcard History will have a very special postcard history article by Nobody Special. And you should look for that. It's quite amusing. We've expanded our cadre of authors by 3 people this past month, and we continue to put out 3 articles a week, and we're glad to have you visit the website whenever it's convenient for you. Thank you, Hal. It's been a privilege.
Thank you, Ray. Thanks so much for everyone coming, and we appreciate Dolores. Your giving our presentation today was just great fun.
I think Clarissa wanted to say something.
Sure.
The donkey that you show with Santa Claus is very common in Europe. My mother said in Italy, she was when I was a kid, she was putting hay outside the door for the donkey of Santa Claus. They were not having reindeers
Right.
until the United States invented them.
Yes.
And bringing them from Pole North.
Yes.
Before, it has nothing to do. Not forget that St. Nicholas is buried in Italy in Bari. Original bishop who was the original St. Nicholas.
Yes.
Okay, great fun.
Oh, did
Any other
NCY
comments that anyone wants to unmute themselves and mention?
Dolores, thank you very much. I was not able to type into the chat. I don't know what's new computer, I guess.
Oh, that's okay.
And it was really quite interesting. And I did find my hat.
Yes, you did. That is very cool. Well, somebody wrote in here, Tony Hine. The gollywog was also an advertising figure used by Robertson's Golden Shred Orange Marmalade in the UK, not unlike Aunt Jemima Pancake in the USA. Given the racism accepted by the royal family, the joke about Idi Amin calling Queen Elizabeth II from Uganda to say, because of independence, Uganda had taken the Queen off their stamps, to which Elizabeth replied, "That's okay, we took your picture off the marmalade." Wonderful. That's great.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Thank you, Tony.
Did
Yeah.
NCY do some Santa Claus illustrations?
Yes.
And did one of them become kind of the model of Santa Claus today? I think it was a Coca-Cola ad.
Oh, yes. That was Sandbloom. That was not Wyeth.
Oh, okay.
Wyeth did prints of Santa Claus, did pictures, but Sunbloom is the one that was used on the Coca-Cola.
Okay. Thank
Yeah,
you.
or Sandbloom. I forget which one it is, but one of those. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Thanks for coming, and thank you very much, and a Merry Christmas to
Merry
everyone.
Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.